You are listening to the Cinderbury Chronicles. Journey with us into the world of Copper Hollow.
Welcome to Copper Hollow, a rundown borough in the vast industrial city of Cinderbury. This is our 4th episode. I'm P. Rose, narrator and voice of Diana and Gregory in this episode.
And I'm Orphin, and I'll be the voice of Larkin, Archie, the server, and Lenny this episode.
Chapter 3, Memory Lane. The working class starve while automatons work for nothing and take their jobs. A new report found that people from working class areas, such as the copper, tin and steel districts, rely heavily on the generosity of soup kitchens to stave off starvation. Only 7 out of 10 people are gainfully employed in the tin district, and even those who have jobs often rely on public kitchens to feed themselves. Philip Johnson of the Cinderbury Observer. The Copper Hollow sign hangs high in the train station. It hasn't actually read Copper Hollow for years now. In fact, Larkin can't remember it ever reading Copper Hollow. He stands at the edge of the platform, having just arrived, taking in the familiar surroundings. The old station is made of brick and packed with commuters. Paper boys and ticket inspectors are interspersed throughout the crowd. A column of soldiers board a train. Lines of metal homing pigeons sit upon a telegraph tower, bristling with electronics, while a mail bot stands below the tower near a wall of payphones. He is busy clipping a capsule to a metal pigeon's leg before releasing the eager creature to flight. It's a mundane sight for Larkin, but his fascination never tires of anything that flies. He feels comforted by the sight of the old station. After a moment, he spots a lad he knows on the platform.
Breaking news! Charcot was admitted on Mrs. B's ladies. Our boys push back the dastardly desert rebels.
The unkempt adolescent shouts over the crowd, brandishing the Cinderbury Times. Larkin weaves his way through the masses towards the lad.
All right, Archie. How's the old newspaper business treating you? Lark, long time no speak. Oh, fine. Enough to get by. What has you and old Co's then?
Archie says as he hands out papers, exchanging them for coins.
Just dropping something off. Nice to see how the old neighbourhood's doing. Haven't heard much in a while. Anything I should know about?
Archie stiffens and shakes his head.
Nothing you should,
he says in a hushed tone.
Me and a couple of lads are going to soup hitching around 2:30. Maybe catch you then?
With that, Archie turns back to his potential customers, making it very clear that this isn't the place to talk.
All right, catch you later,
Larkin responds before crisscrossing his way through the crowd. A cool summer breeze hits his face as he leaves the station and makes his way through the winding roads of Copper Hollow. The smog clings to him as he walks, the buildings leaning into each other like a melted jigsaw puzzle. The smell of baked goods and cooking pigeon wafts through the thick air. His throat tightens. He rifles through his deep pockets, grabbing a small Bakelite inhaler containing precious medication. He takes a huff and continues through the mucky cobbled streets. Old memories rush back to him, and he can't help but feel lonely. It's odd to be in Copper Hollow without Amelia. His feet tread the familiar cobbles with a mind of their own, taking him to old haunts before he realises where he's going. He finds himself at Farewell Books, where a middle-aged woman is outside sweeping the front of the shop. "Larkin! I haven't seen you in a while. How are you?" Diana asks, grinning at him. Her voice is sharp and quite well spoken, despite a lifetime in Copper Hollow. Larkin's gangly form towers over the small woman, grinning at her familiar face. She has short, voluminous greying hair and wears a loose buttoned-up dress as she leans on her broom.
I'm all right. Same old, same old. You have those picture books in yet?
He jokes. She passes her lips. "Don't give me that nonsense. You forget who you're talking to. You're plenty capable." He shrugs and looks away.
Regular Scrapfield scholar, me.
She shakes her head, still smiling. "Same old Larkin, witty to the grave."
Wouldn't have a cup of that lovely tea, Mrs. Farewell?
He asks cheekily. She sweeps at his feet. "Bugger off, you little beggar. Always after my tea." He chuckles and pretends to walk away. She gestures for him to follow her inside, the familiar old bell jingling as they enter. The shop is small and clean, and the shelves are unusually well stocked for Copper Hollow. He ducks through the door and almost hits his head off a low-hanging lamp. He can't help but feel uncomfortable, worried about making the place dirty. "Don't touch anything. I'll grab you a chair," Diana shouts from the small adjoining kitchen. Larkin stands awkwardly, hands in his pockets, careful not to brush up against any of the pristine books. She returns with 2 aged wooden chairs. "You've gotten so tall, lovey. We'll have to get the ceilings done just so you can get into the shop."
Oh, you're just shrinking in your old age.
He chuckles.
I'll make the tea.
His ears redden, and he runs into the back before she can tell him off. "Cheeky! Wash your hands before you touch anything in there," she calls after him, smirking. Larkin finds himself in a small red kitchen. A kettle boils in the corner, and cupboards line the walls filled with bits of everything. An entire cupboard is dedicated to medicine, another full of tea and herbs. He finds a cupboard filled with cups and saucers. He brings a tray of tea back to the main area of the shop and places it on the counter.
Opening an apothecary, I see.
Larkin jokes. "Ooh, big word. At my age you can't be too careful. Thank you for the tea, dear." He takes a seat, balancing his cup on his lap.
So, what's been happening here? It's been a while since I've been up.
He takes a sip of tea, his eyes never leaving Diana's small frame. "Oh, there have been a few unsavoury types hanging around the neighbourhood. Poor Mrs. Peterson's husband got into a spat of trouble with one of the young ruffians. Crime in Copper Hollow is out of control. And you know me, I've written letters, but these politicians, they're all talk. And you and I both know they're taking bribes left, right and centre. But mark my words, they'll get their comeuppance. Bad people always do. Especially that Mr. Shah. He's a real piece of work, I tell you. Came in here the other day saying my bookshop was quaint. I bet the man has never been in a bookshop before in his life. Those foreigners only concerned with their own. Of course, he's only got the position because he's a rich toff, just like our Mr. Ascot. Wining and dining while people starve. And they're into all sorts of debauchery." Diana rants.
Oh, well, you heard about Shaw, didn't you? Likes to go to Mrs. B's, apparently.
Larkin's ears redden, regretting bringing it up immediately. He avoids looking Diana in those piercing brown eyes of hers. "What would you know about Mrs. B's? You stay away from there. That kind of place isn't for a nice boy like you." She frowns, looking at him from under her brow. His face reddens, stuttering over his words.
I wouldn't. Never. I only know it by name. A couple of chaps at the races talk about it is all.
She nods, sitting up straight. "I know. You're a good, honest young man. Those Shah and Ascot types could learn a thing or two from you. Where's Amelia? I haven't seen her in a while," she asks while sipping her tea.
She's visiting Ada today. I'm going over later. I just have to head off and meet some friends first.
"I'll have to stop by. I haven't seen either of them in weeks. Could do with a good catch-up."
You haven't seen Ada in weeks?
The both of us have been busy. Whenever I've stopped by, she hasn't been around. Probably out helping bots or cooking up some mad invention. You know what she's like. She just disappears sometimes. The bookshop keeps me busy, and I've so many kids through here recently. Seems more and more kids are interested in reading these days." Larkin shakes his head.
There's a lot more comics coming out nowadays. Lads go mad for 'em.
He grins, finishing off his tea. "Oh, don't I know it? Have a stack of cereals in the back there. It's how I get them reading in the first place." She winks. A bell jingles, interrupting them as 2 young kids walk in. Diana gets up quickly, and the 2 children make their way to the counter. "Speak of the devil," she grins at Larkin. "'Scuse me, Mrs. Farewell. Have anything for a copper?" Larkin gets up, placing his empty cup on the counter.
Thanks for the tea, Diana. I'll be sure to pop by soon. Good luck with the teaching. Here.
He pulls out a stack of tapes.
I found them in the scrap heaps. When I saw them, I thought of you. They're old fairy tales. Might be worth a few coppers.
"You're very kind, Larkin, thinking of me. Here, let's see." She rifles through the till, pulling out some coins.
No need. It's nothing. Just scrap.
He tells her as she forces it on him. "Take care, dear," she says, closing his hand around the coins and gently pushing him towards the door. He walks a little easier as he exits the shop. The roads curve into each other. He cuts through several alleyways. His feet throb as he finally reaches the old lumber mill. The place is now full of stalls and shops, but it manages to have a distant smell of sawdust, an uncommon smell to Larkin. It's hard to find a tree in Cinderbury that hasn't withered from the notorious acid rain. He turns into the soup kitchen, a little grubby than the other shop fronts. The floorboards are black, rotten and crumbling. Long tables fill the large, singular room. Kids and vagrants cramming next to each other, eating, slapping, coughing and belching over the clatter of clashing utensils. The damp smell of sawdust mixes with the thick smell of body odour and hearty, unappetising bone broth. Over the hubbub comes his name.
Oi, Lark, over here.
Larkin spots Archie and a couple of familiar boys in the far corner. He grabs a bowl and steps in line, when he hears a commotion behind him. Standing on one of the many tables is a short fellow who looks like he's lost a few fights in his time. He wears a dapper jacket with his hair fashionably slicked back and a shiny pair of shoes. Larkin rolls his eyes.
You're being robbed. You young man, barely a penny in your pocket. And those fat cats should take that too. Stand up.
The man is quickly interrupted from his speech by the server.
I've warned you, Lenny. Eat up or shut up. Preferably both.
The server shouts angrily, putting down the ladle and stepping towards him. While the server and the queue are distracted, the rest of the room hoping for a bit of free entertainment, Larkin grabbed himself a large serving of soup and shuffles off quickly to find the lads.
Ah, don't be like that, mate. You know I'm only here to help.
Lenny pleads with the server.
Help yourself, Lark. Get out, you cheeky beggar. Go on.
The server whips his tea towel at the man, and it's over as quickly as it started. Larkin sitting with Archie and the lads before the queue fully reforms. Hey, how'd you get such a big portion? The old grump barely gave me half a spoonful. One of the younger boys, Gregory, protests enviously. Larkin taps his nose and winks, grabbing his spoon and plunging it into the soup.
You got something to tell me, Arch?
Larkin asks. His gangly form looks that much more amongst the boys. Archie looks around. On cue, the boys start talking loudly amongst themselves, and Archie leans in.
The pigeon punter's been coming onto the Barber boys' turf. It's been real messy. The angler got beat up pretty bad. Old Pince had to close up. 3 murders, windows broken, blood everywhere. Going to be tough for him to sell the old joint.
Larkin forgets his soup, his mouth agape.
Not the angler? When did this happen? Who's brown bread?
The boys stop talking. The air thickens and the lads look at Archie to talk.
Old Ted, the needle, and Jamie.
Larkin's jaw goes slack. He can't bring himself to say anything, neither can any of the boys. He feels sick. Little Jamie, dead. It feels surreal. He had so much to live for. They sit in silence. Larkin coughs a little.
I didn't know Jamie was hanging out with those chaps.
The boys shrug.
You know how it is.
Larkin finishes his soup in silence, feeling an overwhelming need to check in on Ada. That was Chapter 3 of Copper Hollow. Hope you enjoyed it. This is part of a podcast series where we record the audiobook, where you get to be the first ones to listen for the wonderful price of free. Chapter 3, Old Coas. The whole thing with the Coas and Copper Hollow is kind of silly. But I love a bit silly, I don't know.
It's probably not clear in the audiobook, but the 2 P's had fallen off the sign, so that's why people call it covers.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know, that's one of the things about the book that I really wanted to bring forward, because we talk about such heavy material that I want there to be a light-heartedness and a silliness to the whole feeling. I mean, there's some really silly scenes coming up, so far, a bit dire.
Very silly characters, yeah.
Yeah, like bear with us, because it's going to get ridiculous and it's going to get dark. But, we're trying to balance those two feelings, because obviously we've got 2 deaths now in such a short amount of time. And you can see that it's hard for the boys and Larkin to talk about these things. It's just so common, yet they have to deal with this kind of tragedy all the time. It can be a bit much for them to deal with, and they're not really properly prepared for it in the sense that it happens a lot, but, there's no systems to help them. There's no, counselling or anything. They just have to carry on.
Yeah, it's just a fact of everyday life, and 100% is, and it's a different kind of world that they live in, where you're just expected to show stiff upper lip.
where you're just expected to show stiff upper lip and carry on, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a hard world, and that's kind of the point we're making here. But the real big thing here that I think we're pointing out is the classism. So we've got Larkin, who kind of lives on the edge of both worlds. He has nothing almost, yet he has the rights. The rights kind of lift him up out of poverty, and they support him and they help him to become the man that he becomes. But the thing is, these lads don't have that, the lads that he meets. And then there's Diana, who is like a middle-class shopkeep, trying to help the community, trying to help these kids get out of poverty, trying to help them with their education, that they don't have the support needed to be able to learn to read and write. So that's why she comes in. And she's just somebody who owns a shop, These kids should have the support to do these things, but they don't really. What they have is just nice people in the community stepping up in a way that really should be done by the government.
Yeah, 100%. And definitely just a nice person in the shop. And the Wrights, who were upper class, but are definitely falling on more harder times. They're almost like middle class now in practice. But Larkin is definitely the bridge between the two worlds for them. And for Diana, he's a past pupil. He's somebody that she helped. Because she has a friendship with the Wrights as well, of course.
Yeah, she's very, very good with the Wrights. And Larkin knows her pretty well. And he's kind of surprised about her not going to see Ada, which shows the relationship that they usually have.
Yeah, there's something unusual going on.
Yeah, and then we can see as well, there's been an uptick in violence recently. The angler got bashed up, a bunch of guys died. It wasn't just Jamie.
Yeah.
Things are getting rough in Copper Hollow. And Larkin, having been living out somewhere else for a little while, hasn't been aware of this, and now he comes back and everything's fallen apart.
Yeah, I think Larkin has almost a just fond memory for Copper Hollow and sometimes forgets how impoverished it is. But because Larkin is lower class and he's really struggled in the world, to him, Copper Hollow is pretty well put together. And even by Cinderbury standards, Copper Hollow is a decent enough neighbourhood. But even here, there's an uptick in violence.
Copper Hollow is it's got some middle class people, but it's mostly working class. But there's parts of Copper Hollow that are completely nobody can get a job. It's a really tough time. And then that's one of the nicer areas of the copper district, and copper is nicer than tin. There's lots of different districts that are struggling, and then you've got the really wealthy who we'll be introduced to as we go along, and we'll find that they don't have to see this stuff because they live in the nice areas. They don't have to see the horrors that these kids go through. They don't have to deal with these aggressive gangs on their doorsteps.
No, really, the whole story has lots of different spheres when it comes to every aspect of life, but particularly what class people fall in and how much means they have. And 100%, there's a complete disconnect throughout the city between these, which again makes Larkin's perspective so interesting because he has a direct way of interpreting these two worlds because he's been in both these worlds. He's been in with the Wrights, which means he's had interactions with upper class and middle class, and he's almost middle class in a sense, just from those advantages.
Yeah, he's got a social safety.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he's got a social safety net. In a way that those lads in the soup kitchen don't have that social safety net. And in fairness, the Wrights will do a lot for the community, but they can't save everyone, and they did save Larkin.
Yeah, and that way he is a scrapper, which is one of the lowliest jobs in the city because he's literally doing extremely hard labour and often in really disgusting conditions that could be in landfills.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, a cat came in.
Yeah, a wild feline has appeared.
Yes.
But he's doing one of the lowliest jobs, and then he was a street kid for a time from a failed family.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of connections to people in that walk of life,
Exactly, yeah. So, it's not... He has such a good perspective on these differences, and that's why he grounds the Wrights in a lot of ways, especially Amelia. I feel like he's a great perspective character for this. One of the reasons that we have him as a point of view character is that he can show you both of these sides. And that's kind of what we wanted to do with him in this chapter, is that, okay, we can see the point of view of Amelia and how she sees all this stuff, but having it from Larkin's perspective is such a different way of seeing the world compared to how she sees it. I think the other thing is that, so Larkin, as this perspective character, lets us see the world in a way that we might miss otherwise. As well as that, he's also a light-hearted character. Yeah. Even though he sees all this horror, he is the joy, really.
Well, yeah, definitely. There's a couple of elements to Larkin that it's hard to pick apart, but you've got a really light-hearted character, which I think is very much deliberate, because a lot of the time people, this is a really big purpose of humour, is to allow us to cope. And the other thing is empathy, which I think he's gained a little bit through his perspectives, but also I think he just has a big heart by default, which is probably something the writers saw in him and either recognised because of themselves or even aspired to.
Yes, I think that is, like, he is the moral compass a lot of the time. And the thing I want, though, so much for this story, because we get into those depths of darkness, that I think it's so important to have this silliness to it. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy a lot of, like, TV and movies. My biggest pet peeve is when something takes itself too seriously. Yep. When it's like, oh, it's all dark and gloom. Like, you know, I mean, one of the things I liked about Game of Thrones, and now I think that Game of Thrones is probably a little bit too dark for me, to be honest, but it does have a bit of light-hearted element to it.
Yeah, usually the characters were really well written and quite well rounded, and there was a lot of decent banter between the characters, because it's just part of human nature, and socialization is built on banter. So if you've got characters interacting, you have to have some kind of banter. So I mean, I know some cultures can be quite dour, but even in the most dour cultures of humanity, there are always jokes, there's always banter and fun.
One of the things I always say is, like, why would I want to watch that serious show? My life is already serious enough. The world is already serious enough. 100%. Like, I want a bit of levity. I don't need to feel sad for fictional people. It helps
with the escapism. Well, I think it adds even more, because sometimes it's good to flex your sort of empathy and feel sad for fictional people, but you need to build up a connection with those characters, which happens through banter. Like, then you actually like the characters. You can often understand them, because so often comedy is a way of understanding the culture and the social cues that exist and the paradigms of how people interact with each other. So it links into everything. And if you don't like the characters, I find it very hard to get committed. And to be honest, in real life, if you don't like somebody, if you can't connect with them on some human level, it becomes very challenging to be friends with them.
Yeah. I think, okay, here's a great example of this, right? So I'm gonna use two famous figures as this example. Piers Morgan is generally disliked, okay?
Yes.
Generally an unlikable person. That's kind of his whole career. And yet, I would say Jeremy Clarkson is very bloody similar. But for some reason,
100%.
I find him more likeable than Piers Morgan. And it's because, and this is a thing that I think even James May and Richard, what's his last name?
Hammond.
Richard Hammond has talked about. They don't agree with Jeremy Clarkson on a lot of things, but he's just a bit of fun. And I can kind of get it. You know, like when you watch Top Gear and you're like, Jeremy Clarkson is kind of horrible, but he's funny. And that is so redeeming.
Yeah. I think we all have friends, and sometimes I'm this friend, who's a bit controversial, who says something a bit outrageous and pushes at the boundaries. But that, it makes them more likeable, not less often.
Yeah, you know? I know a lot of people who are, I would say, have probably some bad takes, some iffy stances, but they're fun to be around.
Absolutely.
And that is like a lot of it, you know?
Yeah.
And so you kind of put that aside, so long as it's not too extreme.
Yeah, this came...
If they're good crack.
Yeah, this came up before I was having a conversation with somebody, and I was saying there's only one thing worse than somebody who's a terrible person, and that's a dry shite. That's somebody who's just like absolutely no humour, who you can't tolerate to be around because you're bored to tears. It's worse than them being evil. Which
It is. It really is. Like, I love a villain with flair.
Which, honestly, I think that's something even Donald Trump is hacking.
Yes.
And look, he's a terrible person.
Yeah, he's
We
horrible.
will not hide our disdain for Donald Trump. But part of his charisma is that he's a bit silly. Sometimes he can be a bit witty, though, in a really weird, roundabout way. It's very odd. But he's, generally speaking, he's a character. He's funny.
I think the problem with Trump is that he's inadvertently funny.
Yeah, a lot of the time he's very strange, yeah. And also because he can be so cruel.
Yes.
His comedy is often very cruel.
I often find myself laughing at the stuff he says because it's so surreal almost. Like, how can you be saying that? Like, that's insane.
Again, it's some of Jeremy Clarkson's takes veer into that territory, nowhere near severe.
No,
but
not severe,
exactly the
yeah.
same kind of idea. And again, Jeremy Clarkson, I really liked watching Clarkson's Farm. It was great fun, but there are a lot of opinions I do not like.
Yeah, and he is such a perfect example of that, though, in the sense of like I don't like him, but yeah, maybe I get a point with him. It'd probably be fun.
Absolutely. And the same with Nigel Farage, who's a terrible person, a terrible grifter. But he did the circuit before he's come to such prominence nowadays in UK politics. He did the circuit on, the likes of How I Got News for You.
The panel shows,
and the panel shows. And it kind of humanized him. And, him just taking people's, what would you call it, like ribbing him and everything else, like taking the piss out of him. He takes it really well and he gives a little bit back. And it makes you respect somebody who's totally not worth respecting, who's really bad takes and opinions.
Yeah, this is it. And like it is a way that some of these politicians have like rigged the game in their favour. It's like, oh well, they seem like they're the kind of person you want to have a point with, and I'm like, that's a fine thing, but don't lead the country, please. Like,
absolutely.
We'll, maybe that is the place for a dry shite. Like, and look, there are plenty of them that I actually still disagree with as well. Yes,
absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. They're almost worse. Yeah, it's almost worse when you have somebody who's both dry. Well, that's the worst combination. Both dry and evil, and nasty. But there's definitely plenty of parallels between what we're talking about and Copper Hollow's characters, especially coming up throughout the story. I think we have a lot of people that are on paper horrible, terrible people, but actually quite enjoyable. Enjoyable, charming, 100%.
And like this is it. I love a fabulous villain. I love a fabulous villain.
Everybody loves a fabulous villain.
One of the things, like one of the best parts of the Disney movies have always been the villains. Like I've always enjoyed a villain song, you know.
They're almost more important than the protagonist. The protagonist is usually quite predictable.
Exactly. So like and also, we've got a problem with a lot of villains in I think a lot of modern media where the villains have a really good point though. I wish they wouldn't keep making the villains have really good points because I like it when a villain's got flair, right? Villain with flair is great, but sometimes like a lot of these heroes are just trying to hold up the status quo rather than actually questioning the system and changing things for the good, you know? Superhero stories are especially one of these places where it's like, oh, there's these super powerful people who don't want to change anything. Like they want to keep things exactly the same because it kind of benefits the system. And the point of stories is to question what we're being told. Let's say we make a remake of a classic, like we make a remake of a fairy tale. There's no point in telling it verbatim. The point of making a remake is to question the dynamics within the original fairy tale.
Yes. Well, at least good remakes.
Yeah. And so when you're coming at something and you're telling a story, I think you shouldn't just placidly go along with the status quo and say, oh, well, we've got it perfect right now. You should be like, well, how can we tell a story that resonates with people and how they're feeling right now rather than deciding how they feel for them? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense. I kind of in mixed minds about it though, because at the end of the day, one thing that I really like to do, although you got to be super careful with it, is to steel man your opposition. Like instead of straw manning them, as the old say idiom, that you're trying to weaken somebody's position by being unfair in the way that you're representing them, or maybe misrepresent what they say, pick the worst bits. Steel manning is to say what they have right, or understand where they're coming from, etc., and try and reinforce some of their arguments to show that you're coming at it in good faith, and also because you're not being unfair, you're thinking about it critically. You're not just coming from your own biased perspective. So I think that's where sometimes I think they create a villain that has good intentions and maybe bad methods, and that can drift into it. But you're right to point out that this can go wrong as well, because sometimes it then represents that message as being bad when the villain might have a point.
Well, I think this is a really good thing where, like, you can have somebody who is, you know, the hero, and they are like holding up the status quo, and the villain has the really good point, right? Let's say you have that dynamic. But the thing is, at the end of it, the hero needs to question what they can change from experiencing the villain's plan, not just sticking with it. Because I think what needs to happen is the hero is the status quo, the villain wants change, and then the hero makes change in a way that is more sustainable than the way the villain wanted to do it.
I think it's a very seductive thought. I mean, thinking, I kind of just makes me think it's a very Western way of thinking. It's a very sort of democratic way of thinking, that it's like, oh no, don't have a revolution, no, have a vote. And I absolutely, of course, agree with that. I think democracy is fantastic. But you can understand that sometimes
things feel too broken.
Stuck with the status quo, because things are too broken, and sometimes you can change things incrementally, and the villains aren't wrong. You know, in that particular example. But other times, I mean, of course, usually revolutions are very susceptible to hijacking.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Like, revolutions are such a hard thing to manage. And
they obviously come with a price as well.
Yeah, exactly. When you're dealing with a villain and you want them to have a good story, a good meaning behind them, right? That's actually fine, but you need to make sure that they don't actually seem kind of better than the hero.
Yeah, I think it's something that, it's funny that we're having this conversation, because this is something that we grapple with as the story goes on.
Yes.
And as future stories that we hopefully will tell, these themes and these ideas, these concepts are really heavy in our thoughts and our
yeah
work.
I mean, like, we've kind of gone off of the whole, like, actual stuff happening in the chapter, and we're almost talking about things that may come. Like, we're grappling with these ideas, and you have to make sure that the characters you have in place can manage it, because the amount of times you can write yourself into a hole with, like, right, okay, I've put my characters in this really unfortunate position, how am I going to get them out of it, you know?
Well, even in this book, so much of how the characters navigate the world is about compromise.
Yes, exactly. It's very rare we have somebody just shoot their way out of a situation.
No, and when that happens, there are consequences.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things I also worry about with a lot of our culture, is the kind of, you shoot yourself out of a situation, you know, in, like, a lot of stories and stuff, and then there's no consequences, and then nothing happens, and they got a really bad blow, and yet somehow they're fine.
I also feel the way we represent the villain's violence is so different from the hero's violence, and the hero's violence almost has no consequences or entirely good consequences. There's no collateral damage. The hero stops any innocence from being hurt, and it's again, it's another kind of Western mythos that goes on, where now, of course, this is just propaganda in general across many cultures, but what I mean by Western propaganda is kind of that there's these pure forces for good, and they might be a bit flawed, but ultimately they're the good guys, and they don't kill civilians, and they don't commit war crimes.
We watch them do it, even though we watch them do it. Yeah.
Reality shows that this is just simply not the case. And I think we're kind of doing a disservice to these same nations, because we're represented as more than human, as somehow meeting this impossible standard, which they can't meet. Like, if you are committing violence, there's going to be damage, unintended consequences. So by setting up this idea that you don't have that, you're inevitably setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
Because you will. You absolutely will. And then we don't have an honest conversation and an honest calculation about the actions that governments are going to take and people are going to take. Because it doesn't just happen on a big scale, it happens on a small scale
Yeah,
too.
I mean, this is the putting something up on a pedestal, pretending it's perfect, and then when something goes wrong, you have to either tilt it into a different light or the illusion shatters, you know?
The illusion shatters, yeah.
I think of it like, I remember when I was younger and there'd be these guys who would, like, be into me and they would have these ideas about me that just weren't true. Like, I remember just being like, you've got this, like, you don't even know me and you've decided all these things about me before we've even had a conversation. And it was very strange for me at the time to be like, I can see your delusion and there's no way I can live up to this. Do you know?
Yeah.
And, there's no way a nation can live up to the heights that it proclaims to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Unless they're a bit realistic.
When it proclaims to be a great peacekeeper,
You
etc.
know?
Yeah. It has to realise that even its best well-meaning intentions and actions have negative consequences. Yeah. And just as that is in the real world, that theme pervades the book, as we'll find out, and hopefully you'll follow along and find out how the characters navigate this dark world.
Yeah, like, I don't know, this is, you kind of get an insight into how we think about things in our brain, and hopefully that's interesting.
It's interesting and not completely crass and idiotic.
Maybe it is, but, we have these conversations all the time, and we're just kind of broadcasting them now.
Yeah, another thing I'd love to point out as well is that Amelia and Larkin, so far the characters we meet, and among others, we take these really idealistic characters.
Yes.
They're really good people. And we want to see how the world will treat them and how their good intentions will be perverted and led in different directions that will mean they have so many unintended consequences.
Yeah, exactly. No good deed goes unpunished.
No good deed goes unpunished, unfortunately. That's a saying to live by.
Yeah. We have had a few people saying, AI did not steal your book, a person did. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't think this really holds water. I mean, there's a couple of points on this. One is, regardless of whether the AI or a person stole it, I mean, it's clearly a semantic argument, because people are using AI as an opportunity to steal the book where they would have had a very hard time before AI doing this. They can just get the AI to scrape the contents, to take nuances from the book, rewrite it at will, or to copy it willy-nilly. So that makes it way easier, but the most important thing is that they took the title and the subtitle.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, look, I don't know how much has been copied because, so one of the things to point out is that this person only sells their books as paperbacks. They do not have an ebook version. Mm-hmm. And I am loath to actually buy this book. Like, I still haven't gotten myself to do it, and I don't know if I ever will.
We might have to, but it is really wrong to have to give them money when they've potentially stolen from you.
Yeah, so we don't know how similar the actual contents are. I do know that it is much shorter than our book, and I think these are some tropes that people who are making AI copies of other people's books will be likely to do. First of all, making it a paperback means that people can't check as thoroughly unless they buy the book, in which case that person is making some money off of the authors they are stealing from.
Yeah, as opposed to like a digital edition, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because like a digital edition, you can get a free sample where you read a few pages and see if it seems similar, right? But with the paperback, you don't get that option. And the reason I think this is a scam is that obviously this person has released a strange amount of books. This person, Richard M. Eunice, is the name of this author, let's call it. Mm-hmm. And they've released a massive amount of books in such a short period of time. Like, I want to say, like, 3 months, 2 months, something.
Yeah,
like
3 or 2 months, absolutely. And you have to wonder how much editorial, like, oversight have they put in these AI copies? That they just hand it to the machine, go, write me a book. Okay, publish, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, I think this person has at least taken the title, right? At the least taken the title,
Yes.
taken several...
And that is the most egregious part.
Several similar tropes and kept it in the same genre. As we've mentioned before, if it was in a different genre, we really wouldn't mind, because it's not trying to take away the readers that are looking for our book. I mean, a great example of this is... I remember there was like a massive thing about 50 Shades of Grey when it came out. Like, people were mad about it, but there was another book before that was completely different genre, everything, that I found, and it's called Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde. Jasper Fforde is one of my favourite authors. He is absolutely brilliant. I highly recommend his books. They're very silly and playful, and ridiculous. But he had this book called Shades of Grey, and it was in such a different genre, right, that you would never confuse the two.
Yeah.
And that's the
it's
point.
just not the same.
So, like, when it's in the same genre, like, has a lot of similarities, it feels like they are trying to get in on what we have spent years building, you know?
Yeah. It just doesn't seem merely a coincidence. It definitely seems like a deliberate targeting, given that it's within the space of a few months between us publishing and them publishing, and to take not only one title, but 2 different titles.
Exactly. So it's called The Copper Hollow Chronicles. Our book is called Copper Hollow, and this podcast is called The Cinderbury Chronicles. Yeah, this feels purposeful, but saying AI did not steal your book, a person did, is like saying, oh, a gun didn't shoot me, a person did. Like, the gun still had the power to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like...
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think there can be a distinction there. That's fair enough if it wasn't targeted as specifically, as I said, if it was in a different genre, or if it had a totally different title and it was in the same genre and was distinct. With the gun analogy, 100%, like, we know that if you have access to the tools, then that is a problem. So I really think it's splitting hairs to go, oh, this isn't an AI issue, like, it's got nothing to do with the AI, that's just a tool. Like there's certainly some protections for authors when they have their work plagiarized by AI, or even just consumed by AI without their consent. Like, at the end of the day, we don't know, again, whether it took a cursory glance at some of the materials published online, or whether our material was scraped from our drives, like via the cloud services that we use. We, as far as I know, have basically fed nothing into AI that's from the text. I mean, who knows? Maybe, like, they could have spell checked something, but I don't even think we did. We didn't use Grammarly or anything like that.
We haven't given away our work to AI. We have not allowed this to happen. No part, like, other than maybe Amazon scraping our stuff because we have got an ebook up. That's the only way I can see, right? And some people have mentioned...
Yeah, but I mean, even that's totally illegitimate.
It is illegitimate.
It couldn't be done, and they're a big corporation, but that's not a legitimate thing to do.
No, not at all. And people are saying that, you know, I've seen people commenting saying they think this is happening. Whether this is happening or not, I have no idea. People think Amazon is in on
Wouldn't
this.
be surprised.
And I keep seeing things where people are talking about, like, so we self-published, right? But people are talking about the publishing industry almost like accepting AI as a legitimate thing. And the thing is, right, okay, if you need AI to write your book, you are not a writer.
Yeah.
Because, and like, I want to say this very, very clearly, right? If you need it to actually do the work, then you haven't learned the skill in how to do that. And so then you don't own that skill. That skill is AI.
Yeah, essentially, part of the process of making a book is writing it. If you don't go through that, it's very like if an artist simply prints out something that they didn't have to do, prints out some AI art, it's not really them producing that art. Whereas if they paint it and then have it printed, if they go through a process and have it printed, that's what we recognize as art. We don't think that just somebody republishing something is art.
No.
We don't call publishers artists.
No, we don't. And like, this is the thing. So I'm not only a writer, I'm an illustrator. I make a lot of art, right? And here's my feeling about AI in art. It's simply that what I have done with writing, with art, is I have spent so much time developing my skills, right? I have spent so much time honing these skills, looking at other artists, looking at the world around me, and noticing things.
Your fine motor skills as well.
Yeah, and deciding, okay, what do I want to take in? How do I want to show this? And it takes such a lot of effort, but also it's such.
And you're expressing yourself for your life experiences,
yeah,
for your art.
If you read something that's AI can't tell you a unique human experience because it doesn't have any.
No, it has to use at best a collage of different people's experiences.
Yeah.
To make a facsimile of an experience.
So it can't give you an authentic experience because it's stealing from people. And so when you create art, you can create stuff that is authentic and real and lived when you're making something as a person.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, as an artist, you're communicating with whoever consumes your art. When there's the AI just creating art for you, now, as we said, original context or whatever way they brought together this data, but it's not one person talking to another. It's just a facsimile of many different people talking to somebody, and it's just not the same. It should be a communication between a person or a group to another person or group.
Yeah, humans have been making art for so long. As far back, we've been looking at the cave paintings, all that kind of stuff, right? This is so human. It's so ingrained in us. This is like one of the brilliant things that it is to be human. And
it tends to be interwoven with our culture, with theology, with a lot of the things that are considered deep experiences of being human.
Yeah. Art is such a human thing to do that to give this to an AI and say that this is the same, it's just incorrect, it's wrong. And not only that, but when you have like software like an AI or something, it's always going to have biases, right? So like there's going to be biases built in. It doesn't mean that people are trying to do this. It just means that this is going to happen, okay? Like, I remember when they were doing the thing where you look at your phone and it unlocks the screen, and Asian women found that they could unlock each other's phones.
Yes.
Because the technology had mostly been practiced on white people and men.
There has been a lot of problems.
So it was harder for Asian women to, like, for the phone to differentiate Asian women. And these are examples of biases that we are programming into things without thinking,
Absolutely.
right? Nothing happens in a bubble. And so if you make something, like, if you have an AI product, it is going to have these biases built into it,
Yeah,
right?
and to be fair, that happens with real art. It's just much more meaningful when you're getting the biases of a particular person as opposed to the biases of a data set that is either ineffectively curated or is deliberately misled, that has some bias, to say prejudice, because the society is excluding somebody or there's stereotypes around particular sets of people or patterns,
Yeah, everyone has biases, but when it gets to AI, it can't really challenge you in that way, in the way that a person can, because it is built on assumptions that we've already made.
And those biases are can be baked in a sense that it's very hard to dissect the biases of that. And while it can be hard of an AI data set, like when we use these tools, we are not thinking about the data set they're built on. You can try and do your research and learn a certain amount about the data set, particularly at the fundamental levels. But in terms of what it scrapes and then iterates upon, nobody, not even the engineers, fully know, because they're pumping so much data into this that it just becomes arbitrary.
And so to say AI did not steal your book, a person did, I think you're missing the entire point of the conversation.
Yeah. The other thing we want to make a distinction between is when AI is integrated into certain tool sets, that is problematic enough and there can be issues there. But that's largely okay because you still use those tools as part of an original work and a mix. Like if you're using...
Actually, can I just jump in here on this? Because I think that I've got a great example.
Yeah.
So my washing machine has an AI setting, right? And I find this hilarious. Because all it's doing is weighing the clothes and just trying to decide what fabrics they are and then creating a wash, right? So it's not like a large language model it's not doing anything like that. But it's an AI wash. And it makes sense for a washing machine to try and figure out what wash cycle you should be on, right? But that's not the same as like someone going into something and using it to make something from somebody else's work.
Yeah, and particularly to make a complete product, like the finished product.
Yeah.
If you were, like for instance, I mean, I think the washing machine thing could be very gimmicky and may not even be using that much machine learning.
I've found it perfectly good. I've never had a problem with it so far. But it could be a gimmick. But I imagine mostly it's just weighing it and saying, yeah, this is how long it has to be on.
Yeah. Like a good example of using AI within the tools, like if you have a tool set within a game engine that allows you to set up dynamic foliage that looks natural, I'm quite happy for an AI to help me with that. At the end of the day, there is a set way in which foliage grows naturally, and it is fine for me to want that to come out a certain way. A bit like I don't mind AI checking your spelling and grammar in a book. That's quite useful. At the end of the day, the language needs to conform to a certain type. It should inform your writing. But the fact that you could create a product from scratch to finish and just release that and claim that that's somehow yours and that that's art, I just think is farcical.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, I think there's definitely, like, there can be problematic elements with using it, but there's also, like, good uses of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to say that, like, I'm completely anti-AI. I am completely anti the way we are using AI.
Yes. I mean, this is a good distinction because we did get a few comments where people were really entirely against AI. It's like they were genuinely like Luddites who just want to go back before AI. And I can understand that inclination.
Sometimes I want to be like that.
Sometimes we all have those thoughts. But I think the AI can play potentially a fantastic role in our future. Is it likely to? We'll see how it turns out. More it's about the misuse of AI at the end of the day.
Yeah, and like this whole thing of like, oh, what's that phrase that the tech bros use? Something can break things?
Oh, move quickly and break things, yeah, and break stuff.
Move quickly and break things. Well, they're breaking our entire society right now, so I hope they're very happy with themselves.
No, they are very much living by that mantra.
Yeah.
With all this said, I think it's at best a semantic argument that people think it's not the AI who's stealing your work. At the end of the day, there is ways in which the AI as a tool are facilitating the stealing, and without it, it wouldn't have been stolen. So that's one element. The other element is, when we say AI stole the work, we are also referring to the human being the other side. I think that's implicit.
Yeah, exactly.
So really, at the end of the day, AI did steal our book, and we'll not split hairs about these tiny details that are clearly insignificant.
Yeah, I mean, like, AI did steal our book, so did a person. Both of those are problems.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's all we have. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. This episode was written, produced, and performed by R. Finn and P. Rose. Thank you to Alex Grohl, who created the music within this episode. If you would like to support the Cinderbury Chronicles and our writing, please consider sharing this episode or purchasing a copy of Copper Hollow available on Amazon or Kindle. If Copper Hollow is not available in your region, please contact us at copperhollowbook@gmail.com. Your time, engagement and feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for listening.